Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Center. Tonight I'm going to be talking about the 4 most important things to a soul just before the soul enters the body. Okay? And the reason I'm going to cover this is because it actually covers a lot of different topics and things that the group likes to talk about. So I want to share them with you so you can kind of see what's going on with some of this as well. But there's a lot there that we want to share with you about in these 4 things. Basically, the idea is simple, and of course, the group talks a lot about reincarnation, the fact that we are not just beings that live here for a moment. We are incarnating in these physical bodies for a short time, but our spirit repeats and continues through the experience. And as such, there's 4 important things that are very important just before the soul enters the body. And actually even ahead of that. One of them, the very first one, is the soul's name. It's a vibration that they live under. So literally every time your parents call you your name, it imprints you to some degree. This is why many times when sometimes people will come to our seminars and later they will change their name because they feel like their whole energy changed or something of that nature. So we see people doing that a lot because they're choosing the vibration that they live under instead of the name that they were put under. Sometimes you get the name, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you spend a lot of energy on the other side of the veil trying to get mom to listen so that she can hear the name that you want. And of course, the name that you're giving her is not in English anyway, most of the time. So she has to bring that energy in. A lot of times when she sleeps or whenever this is that you're trying to communicate to her, and she has to bring it in and translate it into whatever language that she speaks. So a lot of it doesn't quite make it. Sometimes they end up naming you after a movie star, and you don't get what you want anyway. But nonetheless, that is one of the things that is very important to the soul before it coming in. The next part about when they're coming to the soul is where they are in the family. A lot of times, birth order, which is the second part. Birth order is very important to the soul's journey, especially if they're working on a particular life lesson, and especially if they've been working on that life lesson for a while. They want to make sure that they get exactly where they're at. So you will notice that within a family, there is a fine family dynamic. It can easily be read. It's not true all the time. Of course it's not true. It's not always true that the oldest is the leader. It's not always true that the youngest is the most creative, or the one with the most streaks. And yet those tendencies happen to kind of go. You can see different parts that are available and different attributes that usually happen around the middle child, or if there's 4 in a child, however that works out. So there is a family dynamic that has to do with our expectations, our society, our belief systems. And you know that as a soul coming into that dynamic, there's certain places where you will feel comfortable, and certain places where you also may not feel comfortable but can get the most done on your life lesson. So where you are in the birth order is very important to you most of the time. Again, as a soul, you don't always get what you want. You don't always get exactly what you want. Sometimes you'll compromise. You go, I'm maybe not here, but I'll come in through here, in which case you spend a whole lot of time with an older sister or something who's always trying to teach you something who really knows very little. So anyway, those types of things happen a lot. But when people come in, they compromise where their original position was. And that's not wrong. That's just being a human. That's the reality of it is. None of us get exactly what we try to set out for. Okay, now, I can hear some of you out there going, yeah, watch me. Good. That's a good attitude. I like that. Okay, now, let's talk about the number 3. The number 3 thing that a soul is very interested in before they come in is exactly the moment that they are born. Because you, as a soul, you pick that. You choose that before you're born. And you do so because it imprints you. When you come over, you are crossing a magnetic veil. And when you cross that magnetic veil and all of a sudden you pretend to be a human over here, then you pick up certain attributes of the veil when you crossed it. And those attributes change. They change from time to time. They're always going. So the time that you actually cross the veil is sometimes very important to you because it gives you certain attributes that are going to help you either learn your life lesson or move forward or be on purpose or achieve something that you want to achieve. So that is why you choose very carefully when and where you're going to be born. Now, again, you don't always get exactly what you want, but most of the time you get this. And if you stop and think about it, astrology, numerology, any of the arts that study these things, that study attributes around physical humans, that are based on the moment of birth, are doing exactly what I'm talking about. They're reading these imprints. So that's basically what this is. So what I'm telling you is you chose the sun sign or the moon sign or whatever. And I don't know astrology, so you'll have to excuse me. But basically, you chose the moment of your birth because it will give you certain attributes that others that are born in that time frame will also have. In fact, many times it comes down to the second. And of course, you as an entering soul, as an entering child into the birth. And these are all things that this entire subject is covered in our transition team seminars, 4-day training of the overlight trainings. But the actual timing of the birth is very important. And of course, the very last part of it, the baby can control. The soul entering the baby can control. And of course, this is another important question: is when does the soul enter the body? This is, of course, the huge debate all over the planet when it comes to abortion. Are we murdering? Is this here? Where? What about free choice? All this crazy stuff. And the group simply says there is only one rule: no rules. Very confusing, but free choice in all matters, they basically said. And the other thing about it is we want to constantly take responsibility for another soul when we can't. So we have to be careful. We have to know where our levels of responsibility end and where they begin. But the basic idea is that these are important pieces. And because of these attributes, you try to time it. In fact, the group tells a really funny story about that in a lot of the seminars. They told it in one of their channels, basically about a young man who wanted to be born. And here he is just trying to get mom interested and get her, because they have to have sex, and they have to have sex exactly 9 months before he's born. So here he is trying to work with mom and going, "Mom, look at Dad over on the couch. Doesn't he really look hot tonight? Isn't he really cool? Wouldn't you like to just kind of cuddle up with him?" And she's trying, and here you are on the other side of the veil trying to get your parents together so that they can mate and have you at exactly the right time. Now, here's the funny part about that. The group says that because you spend so much energy doing that before you're born, once you are born, you never want to think about your parents having sex again. That is the grossest thing that can possibly be thought of, is your parents having sex. And that's because you spent so much energy on it beforehand. So that's part of where some of these things come from and where part of this is. But basically you choose, and this is one of the attributes that the group says most of the time you get what you chose for. There's always times that you don't. There's always reasons that you don't. I've seen so many things. I try not to make never statements or should statements. But I've seen so many times where maybe a soul was coming into a body, stopped, got out of that body and went into another body. I've seen all kinds of really odd things that we talk about in this path, and the travel of a soul leaving the ethereal realm and trying to gain density to become a human. One of the things they talk about, just so you'll know about this, with the whole idea of when does the soul exactly enter the body, one of the things that the group says is that the soul does not enter the body at birth. The soul does not enter the body fully at conception. The soul starts at conception, and actually even starts before that, before even the conception, starts working with the parents in order to conceive, and is really with the whole process all throughout that. Now, it doesn't mean we don't have backup plans, and I will do an entire one of these seminars on one of these free fundamental series on backup plans, because they're very important to understand, and probably about 20% of the planet right now is in a backup plan. So it's really helpful to understand that concept as well, but I'll leave that for another time. But as the soul comes in, as the soul enters, it gains all these attributes, and it really spends a lot of energy trying to get what you want here and trying to get these particular attributes. And the excuse me. Okay. The interesting part about the soul entering the body, the soul takes roughly 12 to 14 years to enter a body, according to the group. Because they basically say that even though we enter the body in the very beginning, before conception, we enter part of it, and of course the moment there is an egg that is fertilized, the spirit is part of this whole process, overseeing it. You spend 27 months on your parent's shoulder, watching things, integrating your primary parental contract. You only have one primary parental contract, not two. But anyway, basically the idea is that you focus in some of these areas to start integrating your energy and leaving the world of infinite and integrating into finite, and also finding your way in the world. So you've been spend a lot of energy doing that, but it takes actually until puberty for the spirit to completely enter the body. And of course, that's when the sexual energy of the physical being is also activated. And the sexual energy is such an important part of the group's work that we're doing an entire one of these on sexual energy, and maybe more than one. So literally, we will have a lot of information about sexual energy. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's not about the act of sex. It is about your life force energy. It's about a spirit shining through a physical body. That's what sexual energy is, the basis of it. So that's the concept that we're talking about here and what we've been working with this. So there are a lot here that have, but we still haven't got to number 4. So I want to share with you number 4 as well, because number 4 is a big piece of this here. Let me get this thing queued up. Anyway, we'll get back to that. There we go. Anyway, number 4 is when you cross the veil in the other direction, because that's a very important piece. And let me explain why. And we talk about this a lot in the transition seminars. When you cross the veil going the other direction, you can release all the imprints that you had to carry during this lifetime. Now, those are the imprints that gave you your attributes. Those are the things that people read when they're doing astrology or numerology, or those things. But literally, you helps to go here. Now, what if you don't? What if you don't, and you take a shortcut, or, I don't believe in accidents, but what if you take a shortcut home? Well, no problem. You can still do it. It just takes a little longer. It's a little more difficult to acclimate at home, once you get home, than it is if you go through this process. So it's simply a preferred process that we go through as souls to try and leave at a specific time. And if we hit the window, it's really magical, because it's almost like stepping out of the body and stepping straight across. Very cleanly, very comfortably. And watch the one on multidimensionality in the Fundamental Series 2, because that will also explain that you're not the only one doing that. There are 11 of you that all have to leave at exactly the same time, which is the reason some people take a while to die. Anyway, that's part of what this is. When you hit that window and you shoot for that window. Now, what about these windows? Well, there's more than one in everybody's lifetime, because of the cycles of the sun and the moon and the weights and all the rest of the gravity of the universe, basically. We can tell you that there are many opportune times for each one of us to go home. And in fact, many of you have even scheduled times where you could go home. Many of you have actually scheduled these windows of opportunity where you best could go home. And what takes place, you're on the planet of free choice. So even though you set these up, it is entirely up to you. And what happens if you don't take this way out? If you don't take one of these doors as they come up, you have what we call a phantom death. And a phantom death is a very interesting situation here with you. Because a phantom death basically means that when you come out of it, you basically are changed. You're more on focus. You may have gone into it with this big, wide perspective, and you may be scattered way over here, or coming way over here with your work or whatever it is. When you come out of a phantom death, boom, your focus narrows. You're a great way. Patricia Squires in Atlanta, She gave me this one. She says, your bullshit tolerance goes away. Okay, that's a good way to put it, because that's exactly what happens. All of a sudden, your whole life starts changing and you start to be on purpose. And I don't want to make this whole one about phantom death either, because phantom death is one that Barbara wants to be a part of, so I will certainly save that one for her, and we will do one on phantom death together, because that's what happened. But if you pass that door, when it's your opportunity to go home, you have a phantom death, not a real death. And it simply means that your life changes in some way. And as you go forward, you're going to have more of this. And as we get older, we place more and more of them. Some of you came in with very sensitive energy, very difficult. You didn't know if you were going to be able to make it. And many of you actually have doors of opportunity where you could have gone home as children. Happens all the time. You're up there going, geez, I don't know if I can do this. This is such a dense planet. I don't know if I got to stay. But you know what? If I can't stay, just put me down right here and let me get out here, because there's a perfect opportunity. I can just slide right across, no problem. And then you kind of set these up for yourself. And there's no right or wrong about any of it. If you're tired and you want to go home, set that intent. You will be gone very quickly, especially in these times. There's nobody sitting around taking up space on this planet at this moment. Each and every one of you has something to do. And if you're going to do it, let's get on with it. Let's get moving. All right? And there's no right or wrong about it. And if not, if you want to go home, set your energy for that, because that will take you very quickly. And there's really nothing right or wrong about it, because souls don't die. That's the beautiful part. You will be part of us. We will be part of you, no matter what form any of this takes. But these are the 4 important pieces that take place to each soul that require very careful consideration before you have an incarnation on planet Earth. And I'll repeat them again. The first one is your name, because it's a vibration that you live under. The second one is where you are in the birth order, where you are in the family, because many times that will open the door for you to set the stage, so to speak, to have a particular life lesson or a set of circumstances that will help you focus on your purpose. The next one, of course, is when you are born. The third one is the second that you are born, because the moment you are born, you're stamped with these magnetic imprints that you carry all your life, as long as you're carrying the physical form. And the fourth one, the final one, is when you go home. There is an absolutely joyous time when we do go home. It's interesting, we do a lot with the transition team seminars, but the group's very clear about one thing, that a lot of us, when we go home, there is a huge celebration on the other side of the veil. And it's about them, and it's about us, and it's about our connection together as once again being back together in energetic form. And it's absolutely beautiful. The souls, from the soul perspective, the difficult transition is birth, not death. From the human perspective, the difficult transition is death, not birth. We have a tendency to celebrate birth and fear death. And it's time to change that, because the soul has exactly the opposite perspective. It's been a joy to be with you here tonight. Thank you for being with us here in the Evolution Center, allowing me to do this for you. We will have more on a lot of these topics, because we feel it's important for people to have multiple choices, multiple ideas, concepts that they can run through, so that you can find your own discernment, your own truth. Thanks for being with us. God bless the Spavo.